Alright, here we go. BCA-101. Week 9. We're half done. Okay. 10, 24, 16. Day 21 of filming. We've actually have had a few more days than that of class. First thing we did, covered the topic, internet outage. Did a search on that, internet East Coast down Friday. We talked about the Internet of Things. We have so many devices that are connected nowadays to the internet. And some group, or whoever did it, were able to do a distributive denial of service attack. And if you search this for Friday, you'll find plenty of information. Okay. So this was in the news, and we'll talk more about these items later on. Internet of Things, we are connecting all kinds of things to the internet nowadays. The next thing, I understand there was probably unduly, or I don't know, a lot of work to do in the first 4 units. What's nice is we have 3 main units left. 3 main units left, and none of them are as big, I would say, as Unit 3. Okay? So then we start talking about how devices communicate. You know, how does a device here, let's say your phone, eventually communicate to a website? Okay? How does that happen? How does this get to there and the information gets back to here? So we use the mail, snail mail, like mailing a letter. You put a letter together, that's like data. You put it inside an envelope, and then on the outside of the envelope, you got an address. Got the return address, and then something important in there. You got the zip code. So based on the zip code, it's going to get it to the right town. Then this will get it to the right number or street, and then the name on it would get it to the right person when it gets there. Okay? I want to keep moving. So, when we communicate from a device to, let's say, a web server, the same kind of thing. We've got to have some type of rules to manage that so that they know how to talk to each other. Okay? So this whole unit 5's communications, and we're going to use the web as our basis for understanding communications. So, in order for them to communicate, we use a protocol. 2 major ones we're going to talk about, and we didn't cover any details. TCP/IP, Transmission Control Protocol, Internet Protocol, and then this is where we get IP addresses from. And then the idea of Ethernet and Wi-Fi, you know, being able to connect through wire or through the air, wireless, and also, we talk about down here, fiber. Sending it across some media. This would be more like a LAN. This would be, you might think of it more as a WAN, but it's really both. It's a LAN, WAN. Okay? Another key term, bandwidth. How many bits per second can we send? And that becomes important as we go along, especially when it comes to talking about doing things that require a lot of bandwidth, like Netflix, video streaming, and those type of things. All right? Next thing we did, we talked about addressing. Inside your device, oops, let me back up there. Inside your device, devices all have a physical address that is unique to your device. Okay? These are often called media access control address, or a MAC address. Not a Mac computer, a MAC address. Media access control. Okay? So all devices have them. Okay, and then we took a look at the computers here in the classroom today to look at those. The next key thing then now we also have a logical address. We get an IP address to go along with that physical address. And that IP address will be unique in our network. In our, I'm going to call it our local network. And we looked at it. We went around the room and everybody was able to pull up the address on their computer. Now, these IP addresses, what we looked at in the room, those were private addresses. They're private IP addresses. You can only use them if the devices are not going to the internet. If the devices are going to the internet, you have to have a public address to go on the internet. So that leads us to our last slide. We had the students go out to the internet. We looked at the PCs, we looked at our addresses, like it was 172.31.155. That was my workstation that I was on, me as a teacher. Okay, that's a PC connected to this switch. Okay, so that was the address here. Then when we went out to the internet, we all ended up with this kind of address. Okay, when we did what is my IP in a browser, okay, what is my IP in a browser, we end up with an address that looked like this. I'm going to write it over here on the side. We ended up with a 207.165.226.97, and we all had the same one. All of us had the same one, the same address. That is a public address, and wherever they would go on the internet, I said, can you do that? Can we all have the same address out on the internet? Well, sure, because we're going through, put it right here, the Iowa Communications Network. They assigned this to NIACC, this group of addresses, and then part of this group was assigned to our area. Okay, so that address, we can use it anywhere in the internet because it's all going to point back to the same place. It's all going to come back through our ISP and then here into NIACC, and then this router knows those addresses go this way and a different set go this way. Here's the rest of the campus. So that's a public address. Okay? So when we took a look at some addresses, we looked at network address translation. I actually showed the students in here where their inside address was matched up with that outside address and kept track of with a port number. Don't need to worry a lot about that right now. And then also in here, it showed which websites they're going. So I looked up mine, and I saw it was going to this 74 dot something dot something. So I typed it into the browser, and it took me to Google. The IP did. Now, most of the time we do it in reverse. We use the domain name. That contacts the domain name services, which then gets an IP address so we can actually move through the internet. Final thing, the students logged in to a work server in the room. It's connected to this same switch, and they logged into that work server. It's in the classroom, and they use PuTTY. They use PuTTY, and they use this IP address, and then they use last name, first initial. That's what's up there, last name, first initial, and this was the password. Okay? And then I told them, see if this is the public address for out on the internet that's matched up with this one. So I told them use this address same login information, and see if they can log in from some other location. Okay? So they come from home, and they should be able to go all the way to this server using that address and these credentials up here. Alright, I gotta finish up. This was the command when we did the classwork. We had command at the DOS prompt, and that gave us lots of information about the addressing in our PC. And we're going to learn more about that as we go along. That's it for today.